Hi, I'm Carlene Davis. Welcome to my recording studio right here in Kingston, Jamaica. Why does this song sound so familiar? Because it was one of my biggest hits back in the 80s. That sold thousands and thousands of copies. It was called Stealing Love on the Side, and that was a song that really took my career right around the world. It was number one in America on the Caribbean charts, in England, in the Caribbean, and it just opened doors for me. Mm-hmm. After I recommitted my life to Christ, songs like that didn't appeal to me. I wasn't into singing it, listening to it. But over the years, people kept coming to me and saying, "Man, I love that song." And even people in Christianity would say, "Can you do that song for me? I'll go to a concert." And I'm going, hello there. No, that message just doesn't appeal to me anymore, But recently, I was invited to appear in Barbados at a major reggae festival, and I discovered that they were using that song to promote me, even though it was established I was now a gospel singer. So we thought, my God, what are we going to do here? And we felt led to redo the lyrics for that special evening. And of course, when I opened the stage and went into that song, the place blew up. Everyone ran to the stage, ran towards the stage, because of course once they heard the drum beat and everything, they thought perhaps I was going to sing the original, but nevertheless they thoroughly enjoyed it. And when we came back to Jamaica and said, you know what, let's do something with this. Let us give glory to God, turn it around so that it becomes relevant in my life and those looking on. Yes. Yeah. Well, my experience with reggae music and dancehall started back in my earlier years in Canada, because I migrated from Jamaica as a child to England to join my parents. We stayed with our grandparents in those early years, and then from England, I moved to Canada. So from England to Canada, I was, in a sense, experiencing or experimenting with the music with a little band I had in England called the Toreadors. We used to do like the bars and stuff, the pubs on my weekends of school days, And then when I went to Canada, now it became a full-time thing for me. And there weren't that many reggae acts in Canada. The occasional Jamaican band would come into Canada, like Toots and the Maytals or Eric Donaldson. And eventually I put a band together, and we used to tour across Canada and doing the hotels and stuff. And then later on, I met a woman called Babsy Grange, who is presently our Minister of Culture here in Jamaica. But at the time, she ran a management and booking agency out of Canada, working with people like Ernest Smith, Leroy Sibbles, and then I came along, and we started mashing up the place, man, creating our own sound of reggae music in cold Canada, and it was really cool. And of course, people like Bob Marley would come through occasionally, Peter Tosh would come through, and we'll be like the opening bands for them. As a matter of fact, Police, when they were the group Police out of England, when they were kicking it up with songs like Bed's Too Big Without You and all that, I was like the opening band act for them in Canada. So it was good to have our own sound of reggae. And in those days, we used to always come back to Jamaica, record, and then voice in Canada and release it as a Canadian product, because we didn't have enough musicians there and the recording studio that understood our sound, But it was great because we were unique, we stood out because there was just a handful of us doing it at the time. Well, it was the song Stealing Love that did it. And of course, having done that song, I went back in the studio and recorded an album. It was just simply called Carlene Davis, with songs like Going Down to Paradise, Like Old Friends Do, It Must Be Love. And of course, then came the song Santa Claus, Do You Ever Come to the Ghetto? Well, it was a huge Christmas hit, which everybody still loves. I mean, recently Chronix just did a version of it, so yeah. It was something I always dreamed about, and to finally see it happening, you know. As a matter of fact, I was one of the few persons that came back to Jamaica to pursue my music, because people used to think it was crazy that, hey, you're in England, you're in Canada, you go to America, why would you want to come back to Jamaica? But for me, I needed to touch base with my roots, because having been away for so long, I needed to kind of understand the sound that I felt needed to get out there. Through reggae music, I went places like Japan, many times, Germany, South America, Mexico, Costa Rica, of course, England, USA, Canada, the Caribbean, and Singapore, you name it. Yeah. Well, I know people love the rhythm. I think the rhythm is it's very infectious, and of course with the message that comes with it. And back in the day, you can imagine the message that someone like Bob Marley brought. And people like myself, as a female in an industry which was very few of us was happening at the time. You had people like Marcia Griffiths, who had already paved the way, and Judy Mowat, the I Trees and all of that. And then people like myself coming with a slightly different style of reggae because of my experience coming out of Canada and England. It had like a pop influence to it, and people loved it, and very excited to see the contrast of my music, you know. Love it, they love it, they love it. And of course, Lovers Rock is a big sound, was a big sound then, and still is a big sound in the reggae genre. Well, I've always known that the potential of our music is great and huge. And, you know, when you leave Jamaica is when you realize how big it really is, you know. I mean, nowadays, you're able to, in the summertime, a slew of Jamaican artists are out there going to all the major festivals to show you that there is a demand for it, you know. And I think the potential is here. This young generation that is now springing up, people like Chronix, and like you said, what's his name again? You mentioned Ibo Mar, Kabaka Pyramid, and a lot of these up-and-coming artists that are now building a name for themselves. Definitely there's a resurge of the pure sound of reggae. You know, there is a market for it. People are crying out for it, and it is proving itself when you see the artists that are traveling overseas and collaborating with a lot of the mainstream artists, both in Europe and in the United States. Yeah. What is happening next for Carlene? Well, I'm in the recording studio as we speak, just taking a break just to do this, working on my 11th gospel album. My last project came out in 2015, which made it to the Reggae Billboard charts, and I'm really excited about that. So we're getting ready to put out a new project come April 2018, and I'm very excited. Some very interesting tracks are being done. We just did a project working with the fabulous, talented Tyrone Downey, which is Bob Marley's keyboardist. Lloyd Parks, from Lloyd Parks and We the People, the same bass player that had worked on the song Stealing Love, and he's the one who worked on Praising God single. And so we're very excited. We have Dean Fraser in the studio with us, and a lot of the gospel musicians like Dave Green on drums, Othniel Lewis on keyboards, and some of our best background vocals are in the studio with me working on some new ideas. Yeah, yeah. And of course, my husband, Tommy Cohen, has been writing his butt off, as he loves to do, you know, working on some songs that I know you're gonna be excited to hear. So please listen out for the upcoming album, which will be on the VP Records distribution. So stay tuned for that. Yeah.